I'm sitting alone here and crying. I think my life has gone stale. I feel real bad, more like dying. This life is one huge rolling jail.
I am fresh off a grief retreat with a man named Lawrence Cole, who is a really incredible song carrier, and he's been doing this grief work for 30 years. And he learned from Malidoma Somé and also Francis Weller. It's a pretty intense container. I do believe that we have to face our griefs, the hardships of life, in order to alleviate some of that pain and suffering so that we can live fully. A lot came up for me over the weekend. Many things moved and many things didn't. At one point, we were doing this exercise where we were facing the 6 gates of grief. And if you're interested in that, you can check out Francis Weller's work. One of those gates is the fact that everything we ever love, we're going to lose. And that's a heavy thing. You know, I camped for a night at this place called Horn Lake, and it's really beautiful. And I'm actually at a climbing wall. There's this big wall that goes above me, and no fall zone right here, like a death drop. And climbing used to be a really big part of my life. You know, it was very clear. I was very focused. This is what my life was oriented around. And since then, I've moved on to other things. And I climb a few times a year, but I used to identify as a climber. And to be here and see these beautiful walls that I'm not climbing has grief, you know? And part of that is the tension of becoming. It seemed that just simply orienting to climbing in life would no longer serve my evolution. And so in my process of maturation, I've decided to allot my time to other things. I mean, this is here for me. I can come to it anytime I want. And it also seems like it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me in serving others. So there's a lot of grief there in the loss of this identity, of this lifestyle. As we moved through the weekend in those 6 gates of grief, I kind of questioned the efficacy of the work because it seemed like we're in a way perpetuating that suffering. We're really giving too much energy to that. In looking at the whole meta crisis of the human experience, it really brings up the contemplation of, is this worth it? You know, is this human experience worth it with all the suffering that we have to endure and witness in the world? I've been really wondering what to do for the DAC games in this second quarter, and the invitation is to publish something significant. Where I arrived is to write this piece called The Suicidal Life Coach. It's going to be an exploration of my own bouts of suicidal ideation, and it's also going to explore other people's takes on it, like Albert Camus, and also James Hillman, amongst others, to really unpack the fascination or the draw to suicide, and also the merit of suicide as a potential option for people. We have a lot of shame around suicide in our death-phobic culture, but that's also usually based on a reductionist, materialist perspective that doesn't really take into account the infinite game, the journey of the soul through multiple lifetimes. And if we look across many wisdom traditions in the world, it seems to be that this is highly likely, that we are reincarnate beings that keep on coming back to learn these lessons for whatever reason. And part of that metaphysical potentiality adds to my personal confusion in life. It feels edgy to put that out there in the world because I'm admitting my own vulnerability and my own contemplation of suicide. I also aspire to be of service to people, to support them in some way through mentorship and coaching and other facilitation. And if I'm a person who has these real intense struggles, am I in any position to be of service to other people? That's my dilemma here. Do I really out myself in the truth of my experience, which might jeopardize how people perceive me? Just out here at the ocean, waiting to buy a chainsaw, as you do. Classic combination of things. I saw those mountains today. I had a wave of grief as I wanted to be on top of them and Can't really remember the last time I've been on top of a mountain. It's interesting how that was really alive and real for me. Surprising, actually. I'm trying to work on this piece of writing, and it's like a lot to wrap my head around and to try to figure out how to deliver these complex ideas in a coherent way. And it's also really revealing and vulnerable, like the personal story that exists within it. It's confronting too, as I try to figure out my own relationship with life and death and what I actually believe around the act of suicide, as I explore these other philosophers and their take on it. And I think the most resonant one at this point in time is Duran, who suggested that having suicide as an option, like thinking or maybe knowing that there's a potential out, just creates a great relief to the system. That in knowing that there are things that are worse than death, we have death as an option. I'm having a particularly heavy day after some things have been stirring from a social experience last night. And as I stand here in the sun by the ocean, bouldering on these rocks and running around, life doesn't seem so bad. I could sit here and make all the flowery, poetic arguments that, you can't have the flowers without rain and all that, and you can't have beauty without pain. I don't know if all the hardships, like the fact that there's like billions of people suffering right now, billions of people without water and food, millions of homeless people, and people actively like bombing one another and raping one another, like that's a lot to contend with. The fact that I have this privilege of peace and relative ease while all that's going on is like, how does one cope with that? How does one find peace with that? All right, for this task of publishing something significant, I have definitely bitten off more than I could chew. Look at Mount Baker over there, how beautiful it is in this light. It's been a real confrontation for me to explore my family history and be confronted with who my grandfather was, the type of person he was, but also the things that he endured or failed to endure in his life. And as I sit there at my computer writing this story, this essay, I'm often brought to tears as I think about my own depths of despair, and then also what my grandfather must have been afflicted by and how that influenced his son, my dad. And now I'm feeling the weight of that, everything that he went through. If I could pull a rabbit out of my hat here, I think it could be a really potent piece of writing. So I'm going to continue to sprint to the finish line. I actually don't have much time before the submission date because I'm going away for a vision quest next week. So life feels really full as I prepare for that while trying to get this first draft out there. Stay tuned. I feel like vomiting. I just had a technical fuck up and lost about 2,000 words of my best writing on this piece. And I feel like I had finally found my stride of creativity in what has been a really hard thing to piece together. And I don't know what I'm going to do because there are 5 days before this needs to be complete and submitted, which includes this video, and I might just quit. That's what I feel like right now. Yeah, I finally had hope that I could meet this deadline. It came out of my vision quest 3 days ago. I was thinking about this piece of writing a lot, how significant it is to me to tell this story. And I was so psyched on writing the story that I almost used it as an excuse to bail a day early. Like, that's how much conviction I felt about it. Yeah, now it's fucking gone, or a good chunk of it, the best chunk of it, is gone. And I don't know what I'm going to do about it. There's no shortage of reasons for despair. The world is wrought with injustice. People have second, third, and fourth homes while others are homeless. Some people shit in clean water while others have none. People are dying in equal rates from starvation and obesity. Government is under corporate capture. The rich and powerful choose profit over people, and the 1% would rather colonize Mars than regenerate our planet. We're choosing artificial intelligence rather than ancestral intelligence and killing spirit in the name of God. We have homicide, ecocide, and infanticide. We have domicide, the destruction of the home, democide, the killing of a people by a government, deicide, the killing of a god. What is this side that plagues us? It means to cut, strike, or kill. Perhaps there is not enough tyrannicide. The peace I experience is built on violence, my abundance is built on slavery, and a million things die so that I can live. And all of it breaks my fucking heart. All I want to do is live in a good way and make the most of this meaningless miracle, but in this absurd creation, there's seemingly no true way forward that can possibly compensate for the vast amount of suffering in the human condition. There is so much horror in the world that I actually feel ashamed to complain about my ordinary suffering. I am of humble means, yet still have secure shelter, the cleanest of water, fresh air, and 3 meals a day. Despite my privilege, I am inherently subjected to those 6 gates of grief. Is the human experience really worth it? Suicide, the killing of oneself. There's nothing to do but sit with the gravitas of my psyche, this death impulse in all of its contributing factors. I track my behaviors and addictions, the seeking of pleasures that might temporarily alleviate my suffering, and highlight the moments of aliveness along the way. And I look towards others, great thinkers who have dared to stare into the abyss. It's important to spend enough time thinking about life to know how to live, and enough time living to know how to think about life. There's a gap between what the soul needs to flourish and what society actually provides. It's a desecration of the sacred, a slow attrition of meaning, spiraling downward and reciprocally narrowing until life is reduced to a subsistence existence. Confirmation is soulicide, the killing of the soul. Artists do their best to bleed inspiration into the world, and revolutionaries search for their hill to die on. But by and by, it's mass anesthesia, a slow erasure of the good, true, and beautiful. I'm lost in the confusion of what is mine to do. Maybe it's all just poetic waxing. There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living. This is Albert Camus' opening line in The Myth of Sisyphus. He mastered the hook before it was cool. Camus is an absurdist, suggesting that there is no cosmic significance to human life. We are simply the pitiful mayflies of the universe. We speak our prayers and ponderings not to an intelligent system or some benevolent creator, but into a silent world. In the face of this terrifying truth, we fabricate falsities through thorough mental gymnastics to avoid the abyss at all cost. It's a cold, dark, dead cosmos, and we reach for any warm blanket of a lie that might shelter us from nihilism. A critical note in Camus' biography is that he published The Myth of Sisyphus in 1942 during World War II and the Nazi occupation of France. Camus was face to face with the horrors of humanity. For him and his countrymen, the question of suicide wasn't rhetorical. During the occupation, Camus was the editor of an underground resistance newspaper called Combat. This was his Sisyphean effort, fighting with his pen not for some faith-induced eternal glory, but because that's what a lucid human does in the face of the absurd. My paternal grandfather, Jake, was implicated in the same war in the Netherlands, also under Nazi occupation. In 1942, he would have been 8 years old, a premature execution of the pre-tragic. At some point during the war, long before any possible contemplation of meaning, dharma, or karma, he became a letter runner for the local resistance. When the Nazis found some of his letters, they forced a bunch of people into the street, violently coercing a confession. When no one spoke up, they grabbed a boy at random and shot him dead, right in front of Jake. 40 years later, Jake committed suicide, 2 weeks before my dad's birthday, 1 month before I was born. This is the insidious shadow that stunts my development. It's the wound that prevents me from committing. It's the force that sabotages this very piece of writing, begging me with tears not to release it into the world. It's the little boy inside me, lost, afraid, and desperate for love, terrified to expose himself and risk confirmation that he is, in fact, not good enough. Many parts of my psyche stand on guard, willing to die rather than to have that little boy relive that pain. I sit with compassion for this young one, gently coaxing his courage, waiting for him to bear the longing of his heart on the great stage of life. The threshold I'm facing isn't just mine. My grandfather found the courage at an early age as his boulder was thrust upon him. He was punished for his revolt against the world and then shipped away from his home when he was 17. The psychological damage was immense, and he didn't have the cosmology, rituals, or elders to recover from his soul loss. He was tormented by his pain and paid for it with his life. Jake sits on my shoulder, begging for self-preservation. It became clear to me that any chance of personal and ancestral healing would require me to speak to my father, the man I haven't seen in over 20 years. Jake took up woodworking as a hobby, getting out to the garage early in the morning with a coffee full of whiskey. He never found a way to make any money from it. He just gave it away. He liked to entertain people with his music, and I imagined him being charismatic, maybe a bit of a lost boy, trying to navigate the suffering of a broken world. The war had robbed Jake of his audacity. He failed to metabolize tragedy and connect with aliveness, never fully arriving in the post-tragic phase of development. He chose peace over pain and death over life. On November 2nd, 1983, he was found in his garage, saturated with carbon monoxide. I was born on December 6th. After his death, many people called to collect outstanding debt. Rita told him to fuck off. All right, so I just hit publish on the thing. There's something significant. Like literally just sent it, and the first thing I did was send it to my father. And I'm really curious to know how he's going to be impacted by it. It was a whole fucking ceremony, like a whole fucking thing. And there was so many sabotagers that came forward that didn't want me to complete it. And I was speaking openly about my wounds that prevent me from being fully in this world. And I cried a lot while looking at that screen, and there were so many blocks and stalls of just like blankly staring at it. And it was all really confronting, and I think that it's also ultimately going to be healing. I'm pretty proud of the piece and how it turned out, and it took a fuck ton of time, like way too much time. But I was also really devoted to it, which feels good. Yeah, it's a funny thing now to try to figure out what to do with it all. Like, it's all so fresh and raw that I think I need to give it space. But I also have to finish this fucking video and ship it tomorrow because the deadline for the competition is tomorrow. So I now have 24 some odd hours to complete this video and get it in there. So nothing like coming down right to the wire, eh? I actually took time off work so that I could get this thing done and submitted. So I hope y'all like it.
Huge ball in jail. The tears in my eyes are for no one. I shed them to make me feel good. I think about all the things I've done. How can I get out of this mood, out of this mood. I think I'll drink some more coffee, maybe a cigarette or two. Close my damn eyes, fall on my knee. Please, Lord, tell me, what should I do?